just gonna wait for Priya to join. Wow, we have a lot of people joining in. Hi, Priya.
Hi, Tulika. Hi.
Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so before getting started, if Priya and I are audible, can you guys give us a thumbs up in the comment section below? I will repeat that. If you can hear us, please give a thumbs up in the comment section so we know we're not talking to ourselves. All seems unstable. Ooh. Okay, great. Okay, we're audible.
Okay.
Thank you, Ajit Ramasamy. Thank you, Sanmitra. Thank you, guys. It's good to know we're audible to people. Okay, great. So we can get started. So first off, welcome to another book talk. This is a very special one because it's Tulika's birthday and we are officially 28 years old today. So happy birthday to Tulika.
Happy birthday to Tulika.
Yeah. And of course, on this very special occasion, we have with us a very special illustrator, Priya Kuriyan. Thank you so much for joining us today, Priya. It's so wonderful to have you here.
My pleasure.
So, I mean, I'm sure most of the audience knows who you are, but still, just quick introduction. Priya Kuriyan is an award-winning illustrator. She is considered to be one of India's best illustrators, rightfully so. She graduated from NID and she's directed educational films for the Children's Film Society of India, the Sesame Street television show in India, and she's illustrated a number of books which have also gone on to win awards. So yeah, really excited to talk to you today, Priya. And with that, the first thing I want to
Look
ask.
forward to the chat.
Yes, of course. And so the first thing I want to ask you is, what drew you to becoming an illustrator, and how did you kind of decide that you wanted to work in this space for children's books and magazines?
So, I mean, I used to always draw as a kid, and I loved reading. I love stories, and I didn't. I mean, at that point, I didn't know that there was, a job that you could do, which is illustration. I thought it would. I would look at pictures and books and think, it would be very cool to do something like this, but I didn't know how. I finished school and then I joined design school in Ahmedabad. And since I liked stories, I think specializing in animation was like a natural progression to that. So a combination of drawing and telling stories. And while I was at NID is when, we did have an illustration course. And I thought, maybe I could pursue that further. Yet not knowing that, there are publishing houses and there's this whole process through which books go to get made. I saw a couple of books in a library that Tulika had published a long time back. This was in 99. And I really liked them because they look very different from what other books look like. It was Indian content, and somehow the books seemed much more relatable compared to a lot of other children's books that were being produced at that point of time. That's why it caught my eye. And I'd sent some work that I'd done in animation to Radhika at Tulika, and I remember at that point we couldn't. There was no way to kind of even send an attachment over email. Email was new, so I burnt a CD and sent it to Radhika. And I thinking, I'm just sending this thing into the void. And it somehow reached the Tulika office. And when I was doing my final year project at NID, I did a book with them. That was huge learning experience because that that was the first time I, was working with someone professionally. First of all, I took I did one book then, and then there was this long break in between. I started working for different production houses as an animator.
Okay.
There was a stint that I did with Sesame Street in Delhi, and that's where I was actually engaging with a lot of children's content. So I think that is even that experience kind of made me realize that this is something that I can do. And once I started freelancing, I started taking on more and more children's books projects. Yeah, so that's kind of been the trajectory.
Yeah, no, but it's really cool, and you've done like so much of work. I think you've been illustrating. I think because I believe the first book you did for Tulika was like 2004, which was the first Baby Bahadur, and
Yeah,
so it's been what 20 years now almost since you've
yeah,
been
20
doing.
years. So I have 20-year-olds coming to me and telling me that they've read Baby Bahadur, which sometimes feels strange because I don't see it as such a long time back. But it's really nice to see grown up 20-year-olds come and,
Yeah.
tell me that I've been a part of their childhood.
Oh, that's so sweet, but and that's amazing. And like I mentioned, you've done a number of books. I mean, in general, but also with Tulika, you've done quite a few
Yes,
books.
yeah.
So, do you have a favorite Tulika title which you've worked
Uh,
on?
tough, yeah, it's tough to choose, but I think like a couple of books have been very special. I think one of them has been when Ali became Bajrang Bali. I think that was the.
Uh,
I think by the time
I'm right here.
I did, yes. So by the time I did that, I think I had learned a little bit about children's book illustrations, but yet that particular book, I think, taught me a lot. Again, I think there was definitely a shift from the way I was working when I worked on this book because I think I was getting a book that was slightly political in nature for the first time.
Mm.
And I mean, and the politics was very subtle, it was, and at the same time, it was also really fun, it was a very funny book uh, that sort of spoke about something very serious, yet in a very funny way. And, there were lots of opportunities to use visual metaphors and these characters, which were again so uh, I could there was a chance to create characters based on people that you had seen around you, and again, very very rooted in uh, the world around us, like the lived reality around us. So I think that book taught me a lot. And of course, Ammachi's Glasses, because that was the first book that I did, which was my own,
Yeah.
and it was a wordless book,
Yeah.
which was also a very new thing for me.
Yeah, it's a very sweet book, and that's another book I do want to get into. But before that, I want to talk about Baby Bahadur, since that was the first book you essentially worked on when you were working with Tulka. I believe you were still in NID when you started
Yes, yeah,
work on that
yeah.
project. And for those again who may not know, Baby Bahadur is basically about this baby elephant and his forest friends, and these many little adventures they sort of have. So what was it like, sort of conceptualizing, the characters and world of this series? I'm just gonna quickly. I don't know if I can hold all 6 books, but I will try showing like one by one. So that's the first book. That's the second one. Third. And yeah, if you want, you can start with your answer. I'm just gonna keep showing the books for context. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I started working on Baby Bahadur, like I said, it was a very new thing for me to work on a book, on a picture book. I think my approach was very much like that of an animator. You know, you do character designs and try and create this look and feel for a film because I was trained like that. But at the same time, I think there were many concepts that I didn't know. You know, I would make stupid mistakes like not take care of uh, while I was visualizing the project, you know, not take care of the spine, you know, which is like bang in the middle. And I would, in my sketches, I would just, you know, draw this character right in the middle of the book without realizing that. So I was doing things like that, but it was really enjoyable because this character, Radhika Chadha, who had written the book, it was
Yeah.
just so endearing. And the story, I realized that you could take, you know, such a simple thing and just make such a lovely story out of it. And the most surprising thing was seeing how popular the book became.
Yeah.
Because at that point, first of all, you don't think that somebody will print anything that you've done, and also that, you know, so many children would read it. So I think that was a huge surprise, but creating that world was, it was great fun. Because I was given pointers as to, you know, what maybe, for example, they told me, okay, Hutoshi is the horse in the
Yeah.
character is a Parsi. So, you know, to kind of, you know, think of things
Reference.
like, yeah. So try and create characters with, you know, a certain background in mind. All that was great fun. Also, uh, since it became a series, you know, it had to have a visual language that one could sort of carry forward easily. Uh, and when I worked on the book much later, uh, another book in the same series much later, it was a bit nostalgic as well as, you know, a bit, um, it was so much easier to kind of, you know, finish working on that book faster than
Yeah.
it took me initially.
Yeah, no, because that's actually something again I wanted to ask you because obviously, I mean, there's already a world you've created and there's a certain style for this particular world and characters,
Mm.
right? And um, yes, Futoshi, of course, I think came out in 2011, and the sixth book, which is Manu and the Jamun Thief, was in like 2021. So,
Yeah,
what was, and that's quite a long gap for like two books in a
yeah,
series. So
yeah.
then, like, how challenging was it, or was it very easy for you to kind of get back into that style?
Yeah, I think it was easy, but at the same time, I realized that, you know, I have to say that those 20 years of practice, I think the work had, my hands had got a little more finesse compared to what my drawings were like in when I was working on the first book. So I think I could clearly see, you know, what I see now as mistakes. Maybe they're small mistakes, but you know, so I could clearly rectify a lot of that uh, because I think my eye and my hand and everything has been trained a little more over 20 years. But it did. I mean, it didn't. I didn't have to struggle or anything to get back to that style because I think I was quite comfortable with my that world of Manu and Bahadur, and so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, because I honestly I love the illustrations on this, and I think Manu honestly for me is one of my favorites. I'm just gonna quickly show like an illustration from it. I think it's so vibrant and it's just such a cool style. Honestly, I love this series. It's really cute. But also the other book I really like of yours, which I think a lot of people love, is Ammachi's Glasses, which
Yeah.
is just so endearing and so sweet. Again, for those who don't know, Ammachi's Glasses is about this grandmother who's very forgetful and she forgets her glasses. One day she can't find them, and that's kind of the story. And it's a wordless book, as Priya rightly mentioned. Again, I'm going to just show very quick, cute illustration. Let's see what I can pick up. I don't want to give the end. So here's a very. So, what was it like working on this book, especially because it is a wordless picture book, so then the
Yeah.
illustrations are pretty much doing everything in the book.
Yeah.
There's no dialogue, there's no text to really
Yeah.
guide what's happening in the book. So then, what was it like working on this? Then was it again very challenging, or was this something you just had fun with again?
Yeah. I think I just wanted to make a silly book and
Okay.
like just illustrate a silly story that, brings out a few laughs. But actually, initially, what happened is that I had the story in mind, and I'd gone in for a workshop, a children's writing workshop with Anushka Ravishankar and Shubha
Okay.
Soto Basu, and I was working on this story during the workshop. It was like a 2 day thing, and I had somewhat got a storyboard ready for it, and I sent it again to Radhika, and I had in my wisdom put in lots of words along with the story, the pictures, and though Tulika liked it, they said, the words are not required at all. And that was such a great suggestion that they gave because it was so true because it didn't, those words were doing nothing to the story. And so then I thought I was quite thrilled as well because that meant that I don't have to do that thing of, keeping space for text.
Yeah.
It just my canvas just became larger, and then I then it was just a matter of adding a lot of detail and so that kids would kind of find something new each time they turn the page. So I think the one of the reasons for uh, the fact that the book is so popular is that it has no words, and it's very accessible to everyone. It's not there's no like that linguistic boundary is not there. And it was based, the character itself was based on my own grandmother. So
Oh,
I had a
okay.
lot of fun, creating that character and doing the character design for that. So yeah, that Ammachi's glasses, it took a longish time to sort of make the book, but it was a very enjoyable, time.
Okay. Did you have a chance to show it to your grandmother?
No, no, no. She had already passed,
Oh,
but
okay. I'm so
yeah.
sorry. But I think, I mean,
I
grandparents have a
I
very
don't think
particular.
she wouldn't have minded. She was quite sporting with it.
Yeah, I'm sure she would have loved it. I mean, it's very cute, very sweet book. I have a friend who has a 2-year-old son, and she recently got this book, and she says he just loves it because he kind of just makes it up as it goes, with the book. So yeah, I can definitely see the appeal with this
Yeah.
one. But yeah, you've also done non-fiction books as well. I
Mm.
mean, if I were again to talk about Tulika, of course, you've done the book on Zakir Hussain. There's also Unknown Heroes. I'm just going to quickly bring that out. You've done the story on Babani Mahato in this one, which
Yes.
is by P. Sainath. Again, lovely, lovely anthology, amazing illustrations, and of course, Zakir and his Tabla, which is on Zakir Hussain. More power to him on the Grammys recently. Um, but yeah, and of course, apart from this, you've also done the book Indra, which is based on Indira Gandhi. So when you're working on books that are and characters especially that are based on real life people, what is that process like for you? Because
Mm.
I'm sure there's a lot of research that goes in, and what are the challenges when you're basing characters on real life people?
Yeah. So yes, like you rightly said, there's a lot of research that one has to do when you're sort of working on real life characters, and one of the reasons is that they actually existed, and you have to get everything
Yeah.
right. You can't make up stuff about them, or there are lots of details that children especially can pick up. Uh, you know, so that the research part has to be done correctly. And sometimes that is quite challenging. For example, in the case of Bhavani Mahato, there's hardly any. Of
Yeah.
course, the only photographs we had were the photographs that Sainath had taken when he visited her and interviewed her. So, sort of imagining what she would have looked like when she was those different ages that I have depicted in the book. Uh, so when one does not have enough visual reference, you take whatever visual reference you can get from that period and try and extrapolate that and sort of uh, create your own character, your own scenarios based on that. But even that has to be sort of correct. So that finding references is sometimes difficult. Whereas in the case of Zakir Hussain, his life is quite well documented, and of course he's still present and performing. So for Zakir, I remember watching a lot of YouTube videos of his performing. There's a lovely book of Dayanata Singh, the photographer, who has documented his a certain part of his life. So in his case, there was lots of reference, and again, you're always worried that what if like in the case of Zakir Hussain, what if he sees the book, one at some point, what would he think of it? Because he's alive, so there's that slight pressure of the actual person
Seeing the book.
by
Yeah.
chance seeing the book. Whether that person would be happy by my depiction of him, her, because Indira Gandhi was notoriously famous for being very particular about
Yeah.
how
Different.
people depicted her. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think you've done a great job again with the book. But yeah, sorry, you were continuing your answer.
No, I've seen it's also kind of you. It's a chance to also learn so much about a person while you're doing a book on someone. So that aspect of it is also um, it's really interesting. That part of working on a project is really nice.
Yeah. No, for sure. And again, I just want to again quickly show everyone just a spread from Unknown Heroes Babani Mato. So this is one of them. And you again, so I think the other thing is you've worked on so many books and different kinds and types of books, be it a wordless book, of course, fiction, non-fiction, all of that. How do you arrive at a style for a story?
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
is that like for you? And of course, since you've worked as in animation, do you kind of give it that inherent touch of animation, or is that something you consciously decide, okay, there are varying degrees to it, I'll make it a little more, say, static, or it requires to be more fluid? How do you kind of
Yeah.
arrive at that?
So, in terms of style, I think I go by what the story is like. I mean, it really depends on what kind of a story I'm tackling. Uh, to give you an example, in the case of, say, Zakir, I remember once I had done all the sketches and I was working on what kind of a style I should go with for the book. Some of the earlier styles that I had sent the editors at Tulika, they were they had these really bright colors and um, so, but the style that we ultimately went with was a very muted, graphite, black and white with pops of color kind of style. And the reason for that was that, this was a book, it was sort of set. We needed that slightly a nostalgic feeling in in the drawing. And also, the focus was Zakir, and we wanted the focus in the book to be in the illustrations as well to be on Zakir. So if you notice in the book, a lot of the with the use of color, the focus has been drawn onto the central character, which is Zakir Hussain, and the rest of it has been kind of left in black and white. And it kind of gives you, since this was a biographical account of Zakir, and mostly delved on his childhood, the black and whites and the muted colors kind of worked because we were clearly looking at his past and not the present as is. So these are the decisions one takes when you're kind of working on a project. In the case of Ali became Bajrang Bali, that it was kind of set in this slightly chaotic
Yeah.
city, and then it made sense, to use some collage and some certain, warm colors, because the monkey itself is this, slightly brownish, reddish character. And so to kind of bring in that slight chaos of the city and the Ramlila, we kind of went with, slightly bright, warm colors. So I think it is the story which ultimately drives, how you treat in terms of what medium you use, how you treat your book. Um, your second part was about, uh, you,
Oh, the sort of animation, like how
oh
do
yeah,
you decide it's
yeah, I
fluid or
think
to make
so,
it more rigid?
definitely. Yeah, I think that training in animation, I think it's quite, I feel it's quite natural to kind of bring movement into the book. Uh, and I don't know if I really plan it, but a lot of people have noticed this, and I think that might be the reason. I'm kind of thinking in motion, so
Okay.
uh, I feel that it also brings the page alive. Uh, having, say, somebody in action rather than uh, just sitting.
Okay. Fair, fair. But I mean, lovely books, lovely styles, nonetheless. But yeah, I think, when it comes to writing, what a lot of people say is that you need to practice every day to become better at writing.
Hmm.
Is it the same when it comes to illustration? Do you sort of practice every day? Do you have a routine, or
I
is this
think
completely for you like a project by
definitely,
project?
yeah, yeah. I think definitely, because I, I mean, I think talent is really, overrated. So much of it is just kind of, sitting at your desk and being undistracted and, doing your thing every day. And I think that's the only way, that there's that gap between what you're imagining and what you put on paper that has to keep reducing over time. And that's the only way it happens, by just practice. So
Okay.
I think that, uh, yeah, I think daily practice is definitely. I mean, Zakir Hussain would he would practices daily even now. So I think that to do anything well, you have to just kind of keep at it.
So, do you have like a designated time during the day when you sit and you're just sort of
I,
um,
I
sketching
think, I
or
mean, it's like not a day goes by when I don't draw. So I don't have a particular time in the day, but I must be spending. Uh, I mean, every day I spend, a certain amount, quite an amount of time sort of drawing.
okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so this is even like, say, if it's like a slightly more freeish time for you, there's like a gap between, say, two projects. You're still kind
Yeah,
of
yeah. I would definitely draw.
okay, wow. No, that's amazing. That's great. So obviously, I mean, looking back at the work you've done, say even like I said, Baby Bahadur, the first book itself, it was like in 2004. The latest one was 2021, and you've been an illustrator for 20 years now.
Hmm.
So how do you think you've evolved as an illustrator, and how do you think your
Hmm.
approach has changed over the years?
Um, I think I must say that when I first started doing picture books, first of all, I think, I myself didn't take children's books that seriously, which was a unfortunate thing because I would have not wasted so much time in the beginning. But I think I've understood the seriousness of books and, how how detail is so important in making picture books. Also, uh, I think, of course, I think the skill itself has improved over the years. Uh, like I said, if you look at some of my earlier books, at least if I look at some of my earlier books, I see a lot of so many mistakes. Not that I make mistakes now, but they are better mistakes than what I made earlier. Uh, so I think there's definitely I can see a a change in the way I approach books. Uh, Small things like the way I look at color palettes, or even um, how I try and bring the world around me into my books, the politics of the world around me into my books, into the
Okay.
art world, into the artwork. Uh, and um, I think I've understood the idea of, showing but not telling, where if you want to kind of show something to a child, you don't lecture that child about it, but you kind of gently just show it in the pictures. And I think that's been a huge learning from the beginning of my career to now. Uh, and um, yeah, I think, I mean, of course, there's so much more to do, but I just hope I can keep doing work in children's books like this.
Yeah, no, definitely. I hope to see many more books from you. I'm sure you will. And yeah, finally, what is a piece of advice or learning you'd like to share to, aspiring illustrators or people who are, young illustrators kind of rising up in this space? What is something you'd like to tell them?
Uh, okay. Uh, okay, one of the things, if of course, it would be something we've touched upon, is about practice. You have to kind of, I feel, practice your craft every day. Also, be a good observer of life, because that's where the stories lie. And that's how you would, I mean, you have to borrow from life to make your books more interesting. And that's the only way you can sort of depict, the lived reality of the world around you. Uh, and I always think, like, I think reading definitely helps. It might not be about uh, it might not be. I don't mean like reading about children's books, reading children's books, reading anything. I think it's a really uh, helpful habit to have. Um, and I think just being interested in the world, curious about other people. Yeah, I think that's it. It's small things, but I think they would really help work.
And on that lovely note, we have now come to the end of this book talk. Thank you so much for being here, Priya. It was lovely talking to you and kind of understanding your work and the way you sort of work. I hope you had fun.
Yes. Thank you, Sangeeta. And
And
thank you to everyone who joined.
yes, thank you to everyone who joined. And once again, happy birthday to Tulika. It's Tulika's 28th birthday. And yes, there is a sale on the website, as you already know, 28% off on all our books. So do go and pick your favorite Tulika titles. And on that note, thank you so much once again. And see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.